Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final. Can't believe it's our final Sawdust City Happy Hour tasting of 2021. Thank you for being with us. As always, we really have appreciated all of you following along, having fun, supporting Sawdust City throughout this 2021 CFL and U Sports football season. And as always, I've enjoyed a lot of great beer this year, and we are kicking off this final edition of it today with the brewmaster and co-founder of Sawdust City, Sam Corbeil, who's been nice enough to let me bother him throughout the year for these tastings with a dandy today, because we are talking about you. You got me humming for the holidays, a farmhouse Christmas ale, 8.5% in terms of a pants kicker, as I like to call them, Sam. You guys have come up with some pretty special combinations. This is certainly high on the list. Now, I mentioned to you right before we began this, I'm actually not going to be drinking this today because I'm a little under the weather and I have to go run around for Christmas shopping right after I'm done this. I don't feel like having an 8.5% right before I run out the door. And the reason I say this with confidence is I had one of these on Grey Cup Sunday, so I can actually review it with some confidence and talk about it because I do love a farmhouse ale. And this was especially smooth. I also selfishly want to save this for like Christmas Eve kind of thing because, like
Uh,
we talked
that's
about, it's the perfect Christmas Eve beer.
it's a great Christmas Eve here, and every year we do this with our friends at Eastbound. Finally, every year I forget that I have this awesome glass that the guys at Eastbound made, and I always love breaking it out. If you can see it, it's got Dave and I on the front,
Yep.
and when it's a dark beer, you can really see the faces a lot more. But I really love this glass, and it's Dave and I have been friends for a really long time, and it's always a special occasion when we get together and get to make beers, and it's always nice to have this holiday treat.
Yeah, no doubt. So tell us what people should expect here off of the top, because I know for me, this was a quintessential Sawdust City beer where you see the ABV and you see kind of what the tasting notes are on the side of the can, and then you sip it. And my face always, just like when we, again, looking back at the grand scheme of this year and all the beers we've tasted together, whether it was us doing the Big Pink, whether it was us doing, I'm trying to think some of the even higher, like Lusciousness, whether it was us doing any of those that are high percentage from what you do. I really do think if I were asked by somebody, random in the street, hey, I saw you doing those Sawdust City beers throughout the year, what kind of defines their beer? I'd be like, the ones that just shock you because you don't understand how it's possible that you take the first sip and you go, oh wow, that is way too good for. I mean, even when we were doing some of the tropical storm, the mojito IPAs and things of that nature, it's like the high percentage stuff that is really smooth. To me, this is right in that wheelhouse of some of the best that you've done.
Yeah, it's definitely dry and easy to drink for an 8.5% beer, like almost, and it's really like I get a lot of I want to say cantaloupe and melon. Like it's really interesting. We use a brand new yeast strain to us. It's called Yotun, and it's by the guys at Escarpment. It's a blend of saison and a Kvike yeast, which is a Norwegian farmhouse yeast, and which ferments at a really high temperature as opposed to normal ale temperatures. So it really promotes the fruitiness. And we used a new hop called Most hops from the Czech Republic, which was again brand new to us. It was fun because Dave and I like this is because we do it every year. It gives us an opportunity to try different things out, try some new yeast strains, and the last year we had was the first year we ever did anything different, where he did a spiced version of the beer and I didn't. So
Oh wow.
this year for the fifth, we wanted to keep it the same. I can't even believe it's been 5 years since we've been doing these, and it was awesome to go back and have the dinner with them and being able to see them because I don't know if that's going to happen again now that it's 2020 all over again.
uh, I know you're telling me. I can't believe we got the Grey Cup in just before everything started getting
Under
restricted and all the rest. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. But for you, what makes a perfect holiday beer? I mean, you could even refine this down to what makes a perfect Christmas Eve beer. Or, for me, I know that my family has always enjoyed being able to crack a beer at 10 a.m. on Christmas Day, where it's just like, hey, we're going to start doing presents. And it's like, bang. And everybody kind of has like one of their favorites. And it's like, cheers. All right, let's open some gifts and have some fun. And like everybody makes their own little traditions with family, and everybody has their own preferences. But I mean, if you were to summarize what makes a great Christmas beer in your mind, what is it?
Well, for me, I guess our Christmas tradition is like it's a big meal on Christmas Eve. Like we do my dad's side of the family. We all get together Christmas Eve. And my brother's there, and sometimes my sister. She's in BC, so she's not going to be there this year. But uh, it's something you can have with dinner, and it's usually higher ABV. And maybe because just it's my personal bent, but I really like Belgian beers at Christmas time.
Right.
I feel like they do a lot of bière de Noëls and or a cuvée Christmas. They really lean into it, and it's always. I typically have at least a couple Belgians on Christmas Eve dinner, and it's something you can have while you're making that meal. Like my brother and I spend a lot of time in the kitchen on Christmas Eve making the meal, and I really, it's almost it's almost the making of the meal is more the meal than the actual meal. Because by the time we get to the eating, we may have had a couple because it usually takes a few hours to make the bird.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Where you're like, you know what? By the time that we get there, the fun is basically bad. It's like, okay, or whatever. I guess we'll just eat the food now because we
Yeah.
spent so much damn time being able to work our way through this thing. But your background being in Europe, I'm wondering as well. Like you mentioned a specific type or two there that they really enjoy this time of year. What for them, I guess, kind of defines this season as well, or this time of year, in terms of not just the beer style, but the way that they approach, I guess, the holiday kind of drinking season. Because for people over here, I think we all understand we get together, there's ugly Christmas sweater parties, or, during normal times, it's like you might go out to a bar and do like a bar hop or a Santa Claus, kind of hop from place to place and all the rest. But what has your experience been like across the pond, being able to see kind of what the culture is like and how it matches up with beer culture in your understanding?
I feel like it's really about family and community and getting together with people. Like that really, it's about getting like being in the same place and sharing a moment, which I think we do here as well. Sometimes we do it a little bit differently, but for me, that's how I've always kind of interpreted it, and that's what I like the most about Christmas is being able to be with family and friends. And I mean, the last couple of years have seemed very different because at least last year I wasn't able to go to my in-laws last year,
Right.
but we were able to go to my dad's, which was great. But it seemed very different. It was that, even the lead up to Christmas, like there's always that build, like the 12 days of Christmas, you're getting to it. But like last year, it just seemed like, well, let's get in and get out. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
At least we got a bit of build up this year before, the repeat. Like as far as I can tell, COVID's like Jason in a horror movie. Like you think he's dead, and then his hand reaches up at the last scene and grabs the guy's leg. And you're like, I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And then you have to go through this whole thing again and kill them again. It's like, oh my God, when is it over?
I completely agree with you, but there's a great scene in Blue Mountain State, which was a show that was actually filmed in Montreal, I believe, at like John Abbott College or something like that. Um, but somebody will probably know and correct me on this because that was just like an off the top of my head. But it was about a college football team in the United States that was on Spike TV, and it ran, I don't know, 3-4 seasons, something like that. There's a great scene where they all go partying, they all get thrown into the drunk tank and stuff, and then there's this huge rainstorm at the end of the night, and they're trying to find their teammates, and they end up kind of like finding their way out of the drunk tank, and they're trying to make their way to the ground. There's a shot where it's just of the ground, and it's pouring rain, and all of a sudden the starting linebacker, Thad, who's this big muscular guy, just goes poof, and his hand just pops through the grass and just like reaches, and all of a sudden he just opens the earth with his hands because he found like an old access tunnel out of the old prison that they had. I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense for the Jason analogy that you're making as well, where I'm like, wait a minute, we're back to what? I'm like, I'm like, that's where we're at. In all seriousness, for you at Sawdust City, because this is our last time catching up for the year, what is the plan going forward? How are you guys going to handle the new challenges that are reappearing here? Because it just straight up sucks for a lot of people that are in your industry, because we've experienced some of the benefits of getting back to having people in a normal way over the last little while.
Well, I think we'll obviously follow the government's mandates, whatever they say to do. I feel like if the writing's on the wall that it's going to go back to whether it's a complete shutdown. If we go below 50%, we have to close our place anyways.
Right.
we won't open unless it's at least 50%. So the saloon will close down. I'm sure retail will keep going. I mean, I don't know what this time of year we're pretty slow anyways. Like typically the production team, at least, we're off from Christmas Eve until New Year's. Like we basically all just go like, I sort of build the schedule and be like, all right, everybody just go home.
Yeah, get out of here.
I like the time off. I like this time of year a lot. I enjoy the break in between. So that part at least we'll be able to get away. But I don't know, like in the new year, what's going to happen. We actually had 2 collabs lined up in the first 2 weeks getting back in January. And like, I really hope we can still do them because we've been building to this and we never assumed we'd be back here. So we have all this stuff lined up and ready to go. But if we have to delay, we have to delay. I mean, that's just the reality. Like this thing changes so fast, and I think the thing that we've learned is you have to be ready to change with it.
Yep.
I mean, it's evolving. Everything changes. Just stay fluid, and we'll get through this. I mean, the best part is like there's 2 years now of science and vaccines and other medicine that they can handle this better. This too shall pass. So I think there's obviously a bit of fear, but also I think people have a better understanding now after 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also say that the infrastructure, the first time around that we went through this, was not in place for people like you to understand, okay, here's how we handle this. Now there's a game plan, right? To use a football analogy, it's like, okay, yes, this is shit. Like we understand this is shit. However, we have a plan for this shit. We've gone through this shit before. So I think that's if we're trying to look for positives in this, that is one. But in all honesty, I would implore all of our listeners who have enjoyed Canadian Football Perspective throughout the year, who are thankful for the podcast that we've given you, who appreciate the effort that we've put in to pump out so much content throughout the year to cover the game that you love. Buy Sawdust City beer online, whether it be now, holidays, New Year's, early January, whatever it is. Support them and drop them a line from us, like a heartfelt note from us saying, hey, you guys helped support us through literally the pandemic. Like we've been together for almost a full year at this point since the radio went down and we opened up CFP and just charged forward into the breach. And I know I've said it a lot throughout the year, Sam, but I can't thank you enough for taking the opportunity to work with us and alongside of us and to be a real true partner and somebody who's supported what we've done. So for our listeners, go ahead and say your thanks with your wallet if you can. You're going to be drinking beer through the holidays. It's the same thing we always say. Hey, man, the beer industry does not stop because you can't go out. Like there's great stuff being made. And I really hope that people will take the opportunity to thank you and to thank what you guys have done for us and allowed us to get off the ground and have a lot of fun with you throughout the year.
Well, it was I guess it would be very close to about a year ago that we first actually, before the CFP, when you called about Lone Pine. Like that might have been around now-ish. I can't pinpoint that, but it feels like it was December.
If TSN 1150 were to still have a website, I could search your name next to TSN 1150 and find the interview, and I guarantee that it would be almost exactly a year to the day, because we always close down on the final week before Christmas and Christmas Eve. We would always take that final week off right up leading to it. So yeah, and again, for people who have not heard the story, I literally was drinking a Lone Pine by Sawdust City in my garage, and I went, oh my God, this is good. And then I looked at the side of the can and I saw the description, as always, as you can have on many of these cans from Sawdust City. And I saw Sam Corbeil's name on it. And I looked up Sawdust City. I Googled them and I called and I said, can I talk to Sam? And they're like, he's not here. It's 8 p.m. And then Sam called me while I was in my garage gym trying to get a workout in. And I'm completely out of breath. And I'm like, yes, it'd be great to talk to you. I appreciate the time. And I said, can I get you on the radio and we can talk? So that was kind of how we got to know each other, was a little bit of Christmas cheer. And then your generosity and understanding once the radio station went down has been just second to none. And again, I hope that people will use the opportunity of the holidays and sitting around at home and watching movies and all the rest to enjoy some of your great creations, because I'm not BSing with people out there that might listen to this in just the audio format. We see the number of downloads this gets. I know a bunch of you listen to this. It's really good stuff. Sam knows his stuff. He's got a great background in beer, and Sawdust City works really hard to try and create top-notch Ontario craft beer for you. So Anyways, there's my waxing poetic to
Well,
wrap up the
I
year.
like that. Thank you very much. I mean, I had a great year. This has been a lot of fun. I mean, I think the CFL is a great part of what makes Canada Canada, and it's very unique to us. And I think it's worth supporting anything that can get behind this game. And I know it's going through a bit of a tough time as the demos sort of shift. We got the young generation hasn't been brought up with CFL. I feel like maybe like we were at the tail end of
Right.
when the. I mean, it's always been there for me, but I think any way we can get more support for the CFL, I think it's awesome. Watching what happened in Hamilton last weekend, it looked amazing. The hometown pride. It couldn't have worked out better that Hamilton was in the Grey Cup because really the city was alive and it was a crazy party, just like all Grey Cups are. And it really was nice to bring everybody together for one last hurrah, because it seems like that's what it was. The party before the end there. But I mean, it'll be back next year, and it's exciting to see that. Hopefully, this is the steps in the right direction, and people can get behind the CFL again. And
Yeah.
it would be amazing to see some young kids back watching the game.
Yep, no doubt. And if any part that we can do and playing a role in that, and of course being able to create some excitement around the game, we love doing that as well. I will say this just before we get out of here, that when I went down to the stadium after we had our kind of event at Merit Brewing, our tailgate party, and I went down to the stadium and I parked, and Zach Collaros, the quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Arms, most outstanding player in 2021, the CFL, he said in his post-game press conference that he was on the bus ride in and he thought, you know what, it might be like 70-30 in terms of Ticats fans, but he said the Grey Cup, there's always all these jerseys from Calgary's not playing. There's tons of Calgary jerseys. Edmonton's not playing. Tons of Edmonton jerseys. And he said, I was driving in on the bus and I thought, oh, okay, it might be a little more than 70-30. And then he said he ran out of the tunnel. He looked around and he went, it's 95-5. Like he couldn't, but he's like, this is 95% Hamilton fans. And I did the same thing where I parked and I was walking over to the stadium. And as I was walking over, like you're talking about the city buzzing, I'm like, I can't, it's like we put a block on tickets where only Ticats fans were allowed to buy these damn things. And I was just, despite the fact the game obviously didn't go their way, it's one of those iconic memories that even if you're a CFL fan, you don't give a damn about the Ticats, that you'll have where you were probably going to the stadium saying the same thing or waiting in line to get into the stadium and you're looking around, you're like, oh my God, this is incredibly unique because teams that usually host have a lot of their fans and have a lot of success in the game. But to be able to cultivate that next generation, I mean, win or lose, I'm pretty sure Hamilton did a pretty damn good job of that on Sunday of last week. Because there's a lot of young kids who are going to remember sitting in a crowd of that many people that fired up.
And you know what? It's going to come back again in 2 years. So those same people will probably be back again. And then if you can keep that momentum rolling, that's how you get fans for life. Like, it's just that, if you can close your eyes and picture it, then you're hooked forever.
Yes.
And, I remember my first Grey Cup, and it was so much fun. I was hooked at that point. Like, it was just.
Well, we are fans for life of Sawdust City. Follow them on social media at Sawdust City Beer and go to sawdustcitybeer.com as well to get your online orders in and make sure that you are spreading some festive cheer, maybe some gifts for mom and dad, maybe your brother, sister, or spoil yourself. Get the good stuff. Yeah, get the good stuff. There you go. Sam, thank you as always. We appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again soon, okay?
Thanks, Marshall. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.